promised I would put that spider on the internet. A little wolf spider jumping around here, and not much going on here, just clear skies in our part of Texas, and we are getting a cool down finally. I do need to let you know that I have been messing around a whole lot with the audio, so if you notice anything weird with the sound, please let me know. And let me get something going here just a second. Yeah, here we go. Got the live cam hooked up and a little bit of a chroma key, so I don't know if I'm going to do anything with that. We'll see what I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out all this gear and see what we want to do with that, so might get some use out of that towards severe weather season. And here's what we got going on across Texas. And oh yeah, one other thing. I've got a Skype channel going here, so if you guys want to call in on Skype, it's going to be Meteorology Lab. Okay, let's try that the fourth time. Meteorology Lab. And that's going to be under tim.vasquez at weathergraphics.com if you need to look it up that way. You're welcome to call that. It shouldn't disturb the program the way I have it set up, but when I give you the go, that's probably the best time to call. If I'm not here, you can just let it ring and ring. And I'll probably take calls a little bit later in the segment and ask you how things are going, and we'll just kind of test things out and have some fun with it, and that might be something we can use later when we get some severe weather going and that kind of thing. So, unfortunately, I don't really have a special lesson. I really got sucked in on getting this webcam and Skype going. But, we're definitely going to have some fun with it. Okay, Sue says it's too quiet. Let me see what's going on here. I'm showing the sound completely all the way up, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Fred says 5 by 5. Okay. Sue is seeing that the volume is a little bit low. I'm really not sure what's causing that, but if you guys are seeing a problem, anybody besides Sue, let me know. But I'm showing my levels all here way up in the green, so we'll see how that goes. All right. What's happening across the U.S.? Excuse me, I need to grab a drink here. Slowly clearing out some of the warm weather. A lot of that has moved off towards the East Coast, and Quebec is way above seasonal averages. The rest of the country, especially out in the west, very cold, and you can see that Great Basin high settling in there across Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, Colorado. Temperatures below normal there. And what did the highs look like today? We've come down quite a bit here in Texas. You remember yesterday we had 80s down on the coast. Nothing like that this time around. We've got 50s and 60s. And I see a little 91 here, but I think that is bad data. The only hot part of the country, Florida. You can see some 80s out there. Everybody else looking pretty cool, and Fred up there, 22 degrees. Probably not too happy about that. And Sarah and Sue up there with 33 to 35 in Indiana. So this is pretty much being driven by this northwesterly upper level pattern. So we've got a large scale ridge across Canada, very large trough right across the U.S. itself, and this smaller scale trough coming down through the northern Rockies, and that represents the bulk of the cold air shifting south out of Canada. So that right there, that's a very small little air mass, but the large-scale trough, that kind of represents the general cool down across North America going on right now. And it is kind of funny when we get this cool weather in the U.S., we tend to see a little bit of a warm up there in Alaska, and you can see northerly flow coming up into Anchorage and Fairbanks and Yakutat, all that. So we're bringing most of the moisture out in the Pacific way up there into British Columbia and Alaska, and that's kind of what they talk about when they say that whenever temperatures are really cold in Texas, that Alaska is often warmer than Texas. So there's a little bit of that going on. Let's do the surface analysis real quick. And before I get started on that, I better make sure there's not a big breakdown going on in chat with the sound and everything. I was doing some stuff with Skype earlier today, and I had levels all over the place and patching one thing from one channel to another, and I'm not really good at this kind of thing, so hopefully I didn't screw anything up here. Reading through the chat here. Michael Burrell saying 22 tornadoes confirmed in the Peachtree, Atlanta, forecasting area of Georgia. 5 spots still under investigation. He's heard 16 were killed Saturday and Sunday from the tornado outbreak. And we saw a little bit of that yesterday. And for those of you that missed it, I can probably pull that up real quick and see if I've got those shots in here. I had a few frames from southwest Georgia, and nope, not in here. I've got Wendy's Grill Skills for some reason in there. I guess I was going to play that one day, some little clip from the 80s, but I think I deleted all the radar data, unfortunately. I do have it archived in GR Level 3. Maybe I'll bring that up real quick. So I'm going to bring up I'll bring up GR2 Analyst here, and we'll just take a very quick look at that stuff that went through Georgia over the weekend. Okay, I've got the Hattiesburg tornado in here. Yeah, I guess the Georgia stuff was just screenshots, so I don't have that. I've got the Hattiesburg, so maybe I'll bring up that storm just very briefly. I'll load up one frame of that, and we'll head up to Mississippi. I think this was Saturday morning. They had a supercell out ahead of the line, and you can see that here. This was on the 21st at 09Z. And there's that storm there heading into Hattiesburg. And you can see it's not very evident on the reflectivity data here. It just looks like a big mess of cells and one little stronger cell in the line. But it's really when you go to storm relative velocity that things really start standing out here. And so this is the Hattiesburg cell right here, and keep in mind the radar site is well up to the north-northwest. And we've got outbound velocities right there, inbound here. So this is a very strong meso, and with this very strong gate-to-gate, that's probably going to be a TVS right there. So that right there is the tornado. Gate-to-gate shear, 23 knots in, and minus 76 out. I don't have the storm vectors configured in here, so that's the reason things are kind of weird with that. They're kind of lopsided, 23 out and 76 in. But anyway, you can see there's almost 100 knots of shear in that thing. And if I set a dot right there, then you can look at the cell, and you might miss that if you were just looking at reflectivity. But this is the supercell right here, and a little bit of a hook echo. And this here is the inflow region. Okay, guys, I guess you're getting a little bit of a lesson here, so it's not a total loss this evening. But yeah, there's the inflow into the storm, and right through here we can see a little bit of that mesocyclone circulation in here, well-developed circulation in that rotating supercell. And as I mentioned, that's out ahead of the line there, and that's the reason you have to be alert when you have a cell way out ahead of the line, because it has a lot of access to the moisture field. Okay, so back to the current data. We were going to do the frontal analysis, and as you might guess, the front is going to be pretty far to the south. I can't get the window any higher than that. Let me shift my frame here real quick. This will just take a second. So I'm going to go into this monitor capture here and shift that down to 400. There we go. Now we can see into the Gulf a bit. And there's that front right there. Off the Carolina coast, right through the Tampa, Orlando area, and south of the Rio Grande Valley into northwest Mexico right there. So a whole lot of cold air advection going on through the southwest and southeast U.S. right there. And there's the core of the polar air. And you notice that corresponds pretty closely to where the 500 millibar trough is. Remember, we were looking at that large-scale trough like this, and embedded in that, there was kind of a wave going on here. That's that core of that cold air coming south out of Canada. So that's going to be with us the next few weeks, just kind of a big blob of cold air and more on tap with 500 millibar flow coming out of the north. And the next frontal system out in the Pacific, we can just sketch that out real quick, and it's going to be something like that right there. And as you might guess, 500 millibar flow, kind of like that, and that's going to carry the system up into the Juneau, Ketchikan area, and Yukon. So probably a bit of a rainy pattern there for Alaska. And we'll take a quick look at his sounding, I guess. Look at Fort Worth. As you saw, we had clear skies on the video clip. And sure enough, we're showing cool, dry conditions. Dry adiabatic lapse rates from the surface up to about 4,000 feet. So if we had just a little bit more moisture, we would probably have a good stratocumulus field. And then above that, a little bit of warm air here, and that's going to be the top of the polar air. So that'll be up at about 14,000 feet or so. And above that, we pick up the jet. 160 knots right there, up at 30,000 feet. And there's another look at the 500 millibar flow. And you notice this is that trough we were talking about in the mid-levels, outlining the core of the cold air. And you notice that the vorticity doesn't really outline that all that great. The vorticity field that you see here in red, that tends to outline the small-scale troughs, the sub-mesoscale features, kind of like the impulse waves moving through the flow, and they would look like, maybe like that. So this is kind of like what we would be watching for sudden destabilization of the air mass in the spring. And then here we've got a little bit of a channeled jet coming around the curve here in Los Angeles, right off the LA coast. So if we were expecting severe weather in Arizona or New Mexico, that's a feature we would want to keep an eye out for. Left front quadrant of the jet right there over Yuma and Needles and Blythe. That always makes me think of Snoopy's brother, forgot his name, lives in Needles. I guess some of you might know where that is, but yeah, that's that left front quadrant moving in, and let's see if that jet moves into Texas. Yeah, it looks like we'll catch a little piece of that in the next day or so. But you can see the northwest flow opening up through Canada. So that's going to drive the rest of the cold air south. And then we see the amplitude of that flow kind of moderate here, become a little bit more zonal. Looks like one little more shot of northwesterly flow next week. Yep, looks like that intensifies a little bit, so late next week, picking up probably another shot of cold air making its way south. And meanwhile, here's a good example of a disturbance coming through Texas. This is kind of a combination of a strong jet max and maybe a shortwave moving through the flow here. So we'd probably look for shower activity if there was enough moisture. This is on the 5th. And then towards the 6th and 7th, Looks like we become more zonal again, and the Pacific flow starts opening up again here. Okay, let's see. Do we want to test out the Skype? I don't know if anybody wants to try calling that. You're welcome to. I probably have to accept your contact. Let me take a look at that and see if that's working. Let me switch over to Skype and see what's going on. And see where I've been testing it here. I don't see any calls that have come in, but if anybody wants to check in, let me know, and I'll try to pick up. And if you just want to talk about what's going on out in your part of the country for about 30, 45 seconds, or if you have a quick question about this, what's going on, let me know. And this will be great to have fun with during severe weather season. Maybe we can take some calls from people out chasing. That would be kind of a neat thing to do. Okay, let's see here. Let me move the Skype window over. And there's the webcam there, so I've got my headphones here just in case any Skype alerts come in. Okay, let's see, what do we want to look at next? I'm probably going to go ahead and set up the forecast here. So we're going to look at the GFS. So let's see, let me get that centered here, and we'll go through a little bit of this, and let me take a look at the chat here, see if anybody's got questions. Let's see, just a little bit of discussion. The Skype address, Fred, that's going to be, I think, just Meteorology Lab. Meteorology Lab with a space in between. I didn't see like a nickname or anything like that for the account. I set it up just today. So you're welcome to give that a try and see if that works. Tom J. My roof leaks and I may be getting it repaired soon. When do you think it'll rain in Las Cruces? Well, yeah, Las Cruces is located right there, just a little bit north of El Paso, and it's probably going to be a while because we're going to be under kind of a dry flow here. Let me pull up my 500 millibar chart here. So, well, we're going to get this one wave coming through tomorrow, but I think that's going to be kind of dry. Then we get this northerly flow, which does not favor rain there in New Mexico. And then we're probably waiting all the way until here. This is February 4th, Saturday and Sunday, February 4th and 5th. Looks like we get a couple of disturbances coming through the southwest. So that may be the next shot of rain right there. Especially right there, you see that. So we'll check out what the GFS says. It looks like nothing really too organized. I don't see like a big cutoff flow down in that area. So let's move forward and do the forecast. Just cold air advection into the southeast U.S. and the south U.S. And then by the time we do the webcast tomorrow, Friday, the weekend, maybe some of you are happy about that. Front remaining well to the south. Great Basin High continuing to remain in place over the western U.S., and that'll keep things kind of cool in that area. Then for Saturday, looks pretty good across much of the country. A little bit of bad weather there in the Gulf. Looks like we get a bit of an upper air system picking up a little bit of that moisture. Better dew points down to the south, kind of picking up the tail end of that boundary, and that moves toward Florida. Then for Sunday's webcast, this is where we start breaking the pattern and developing some warm air advection across the Central Plains. So we're going to have about 2 or 3 days of cool weather, and then things will change. And you can see we don't have a lee side trough here, so we don't have a good zonal flow set up yet. So this is indicating we've got still kind of a northwesterly flow going on. But now you can see that lee side trough starting to develop right there in Colorado. So this will allow things to moderate a little bit. We'll get some downslope flow here in Texas on the 31st, Tuesday. Meanwhile, up in the north central U.S., we pick up a Alberta Clipper moving through on Wednesday and Tuesday, 30th, 31st. There it goes right there. And the Canadian model has a slightly southward position. The GFS brings that this way. Canadian model brings it that way. Maybe I'll show that to you in a little bit. So that'll kind of dump some of the cool air down into Iowa and Illinois here. However, this very strong lee side low here, this will kind of resist the southward movement. And then it looks like with this new high built in, we finally kick that cold air southward and we break down the lee side trough. This is the 2nd and 3rd of February. And then we get a little bit more cold air building south in the Central Plains. Meanwhile, out west, this is that upper level wave we were talking about in the western U.S. coming together. This is what might affect New Mexico there. See, it looks like a couple specks of showers here in the Four Corners area on the 4th. But it looks like even that looks pretty dry. However, you see the Gulf opening up here. Let me show that to you. Let me go back to the 3rd and 4th. See these lines forming up along the coast here? This is the southerly flow starting to pick up out of the Gulf, and that'll bring moisture into Texas on next weekend, the 4th and 5th. Not this weekend, but the next one. So we'll have a lot of moisture in place and probably some showers Sunday, the 5th, through East Texas. And that comes together along the leading edge of that front. So we might have some severe weather to look at as that moves east. Then the GFS on the 7th going for this pretty good cold blast. And after that, not really much else interesting. And then that Canadian model, we'll look at that. It's pretty much exactly what the GFS is showing. But around the 31st, you can see it picks up this Alberta Clipper. Kind of like that. So a little bit more south than what the GFS had. And that would be more precipitation there in Indiana than what the GFS has. So that'll be the next thing to watch out for in the eastern U.S. Over the next week or so. And then at the very end, the Canadian model catches that next system coming together, breaks out some pretty good showers from St. Louis all the way down to DFW. Okay, this will be the last call here for Skype if anybody wants to call in. If anybody has been trying to call Skype and hasn't been succeeding, let me know. Again, this is mostly just to work out the bugs and also to say hello to people. I don't see any calls coming in here, so anyway, let's see here. Let me take a look at the chat, see what's going on. Fred says, found me on Skype. Okay. Let me make sure nobody's having any problems here. Okay, Sarah says Snoopy's brother is Spike. Okay, so that's the guy there in Needles. Okay, well, anyway, I don't see any calls coming in here, but you're welcome to call tomorrow also. Maybe towards the tail end of the webcast. That would be a good time there if anybody wants to check in. A little bit of a sneak preview. We're going to have Roger Edwards on in the next probably couple weeks. Roger Edwards, he's a SPC forecaster, and he's pretty well known for a lot of the parameter-based severe weather predictors, and he'll fill us in on a little bit of that. So that'll be something to look forward to, and that's another reason I'm trying to get the Skype stuff going. Let me take a look at the chat here. Fred says I'll need to accept his request. Let me do that real quick, make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Okay, I'm not seeing Fred's chat request or contact request. You may be accessing one of my other accounts. Let me just show you the account right here. Meteorology Lab. Am I saying that wrong? Meteorology Lab. I feel like I need to go with speech therapy here. So that's it right there. And that'll be my contact. So Tim Vasquez at weathergraphics.com. That's where you can reach me. And let me just make sure I'm not missing any settings. I don't use Skype very much. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Anyway, this may be something I'll have to work out later. Yeah, Jason Boggs, happy about Roger coming on. Yeah, he's already committed to coming on, so I just have to get all this stuff fixed here. And we'll probably have some other people on too, so we'll have some fun with this, especially as we get into severe weather season. And I'm already talking also with a couple of chasers about having live feeds from the field. And we'll probably switch the time around and maybe do some special meteorology lab things during the day when we have severe weather starting to break out. So a lot to look forward to, and I think that'll probably be it for me. And you're welcome to call tomorrow for the Skype thing, and we'll eventually get some people on here and play with that. Okay, that's probably about all I have right here, so I'm going to go ahead and let everybody go. Thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all tomorrow. Thanks.